Hi, hello. Welcome back or welcome in if you're new around here. On this channel, I share my writing journey with the world, and this journey includes writing fiction, of course, planning stories and plotting them, talking about platforms where I publish them, as well as putting out guides about these platforms, and also my writing challenges and their outcomes. So, if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, then you're welcome to join me on this adventure. Today, as the title suggests it, I'd like to talk about something I've been struggling with, and I believe it has been holding me back more than I'd like to admit it, to myself included, and that is imposter syndrome. I think it's safe to say that imposter syndrome is not something that affects only writers or people in creative fields. It can plague you no matter what you decide to do. It's that feeling that you don't belong no matter how hard you try or work, no matter how much you learn and the amount of progress you make. English is my fourth language, and despite the fact that I started learning it at the age of 11, it wasn't until I was 19 that I was willing to admit or accept that, hey, I can actually understand, speak, and write English, even though people around me would point it out way before that happened. I never felt comfortable saying, yeah, I'm fluent in English out loud. And to this day, when I interact with native speakers, I still feel like I am far behind them, which isn't a stretch when you think about it. They were speaking it for far longer than I have, and they live in a place where everyone around them speak it. They're bound to know more about it than I do. Point is, whenever I read books written by native English writers, and while I enjoy the story and I'm amazed by their writing, there's always that part of me that starts stinging and whispering in my left ear, hey, see this? This is actual writing. This is the level that you'll never reach. This is why you'll never make it. This is what it looks like to be an actual writer and not a poser like you. Who are you kidding? Nobody will ever pick your stories over others. You're a fraud. You get the picture. Just to give you an example, recently I've participated in a writing contest for short stories. My story was selected for the second round and then for the third round. I don't know if there's going to be a sole winner or not. It's the first time I participate to a contest like this. But still, instead of going, yay, I was like, well, not that many people participated anyway, so meh. Anyways, when I sit down to actually think about it, I realize how ridiculous it is because the more I read and listen, the more I learn, and that is ultimately how progress is made. I find that the problem with this feeling isn't knowing that there will always be people better than me at what I do. The real issue is that this kind of thinking eats some, if not a lot, of my motivation away. It holds me back, is what I'm saying. That's not all. Imposter syndrome makes one more sensitive to rejection and feedback overall. Every slightly negative critique, even constructive, feels personal and a proof that you don't, in fact, belong. This can lead you to be afraid of sharing your work at all. You might read your work and feel too embarrassed about it, and that can lead to actual writer's block. They say comparison is the thief of joy, and sure, but I need to read other people's works in order to grow, and I can't read other people's work without comparing their work to mine, and that's when I feel like I'll never make it. It's a cycle I'm not really thrilled to experience every time I pick up a book to read, especially when I'm just trying to chill. Thing is, it's more of an uphill battle for me the deeper I dig into the issue because for some reason, my brain decides to omit or wipe away the part where I've been struggling with this even before learning English in the first place. I took interest in writing fiction when I was a kid. Back then, I was still writing in my native language. I remember the feeling I had when my teachers used to praise my writing. According to them, it was more than average. I also recall my parents doing that. I mean, look, my parents were the, oh, it's nice, dear, type of parents, but not when it came to writing. Their reaction was different. It was something along the lines of, hey, this is actually good. And they seemed surprised by that. I put writing aside though to focus on school, and once I reached adulthood, When I tried to pick up writing again, I had this feeling that I was late to the party. Even in my native language, it felt like all the other writers have been pursuing it for years and that I'll never catch up to them. Again, that might be true, but that's not the problem. The problem is that it bothers me more than it should. So, what that tells me is that even if I try to write in my native language, I'll always feel like I'm lacking or far behind. It's just something I'll never escape. What exacerbates it even more is that when this feeling of being an outsider in whatever field you're in overtakes you, you'll have the impression of being the only one to experience it. It isolates you and convinces you that you'll never be good enough at the thing you enjoy doing. It messes with you, you know? Unfortunately, I don't think it can be totally cured. I don't believe I'll ever get rid of this feeling once and for all. However, it's a lot more manageable than I thought before. Now, I've been writing for, I'd say, 3 years, but I did have to stop for a while because of life. But I started when I was 26. That was when I'd written my first chapter ever. Back then, it seemed fine to me. I mean, I knew it wasn't the best thing ever, but it seemed fine. The more time went by, the more I wrote, the more issues I found whenever I looked back at my first chapter. Don't get me wrong, progress through time and practice is something I've always been aware of, but actually seeing your own progress, hits different. If I take drawing as an example, I can't draw, but I still like to watch videos of artists. There were these videos where the artists would show their progress through time, and I wondered, do they get the same feeling I get when looking back on my early works? It helps a lot to look back on my own work and see how far from it I've gotten. You will be less inclined to dismiss or look down on your own work and achievements when you see the progress you've made. So, all in all, what I'm trying to say here is that option 1 is substitution, meaning instead of comparing my work to other people's works, I compare my newly written work to my old ones. The second thing that really helps me is communication. While reading published books helps me learn and progress, interacting with other authors does help with this feeling of exclusion that I have. Because despite that voice that nags you about how everyone around you is doing better than you in your field, when you start interacting with people in that same field, you'll find that people are struggling just as much as you. Perhaps in different ways, but also in the same ways. And if you look more intently, you'll find that even some of the most prominent or successful people in your field have admitted to struggling with imposter syndrome. And you might look at them and feel like their words don't hold that much weight because, they made it. You'd think you're not in the same league, thus they can never understand you. You'll always put them on this pedestal. You either idealize their work too much, or on the contrary, become a lot more critical of them and nitpicky than you should. And that's just not it. Like I said, that feeling isolates you. It fools you into thinking you're the only one to go through it. Point here is, don't dismiss somebody's experience in this just because they are more or less successful than you. Now, the other thing about interacting with other writers or people in your field is that it'll make you realize that you have a lot more to give than you think. Meaning, once you'll see that you can help people in your field, when you see that your feedback is just as important and helpful to them as the feedback they'd get from someone you might think is far better than you, it has a special feel to it. Moments like that help you realize that you're not really out of the picture. You're good at what you do, or you're making actual progress. The third thing I'd suggest is to actually practice, despite the voice that whispers in your ear that you can't do it or that it needs to be absolutely perfect, otherwise, it's pointless. During last November, I set a goal for myself to write 30,000 words. And the whole time while writing, every day I had this feeling that I was regressing or stagnating. But I just wrote for the project that I've already been working on. Upon reading the chapters I've written again, I noted that there wasn't much to edit, definitely less than I'm used to. It gave me a boost of confidence. The fourth thing that I can think of that would help if you have severe imposter syndrome, so much so that it becomes debilitating, then therapy or professional coaching is an option. Personally, I think I don't need to go for this option because I've been managing with the 3 previous ones just fine. I think I'll stop here for this video. I definitely did not say everything I wanted to say, but I'm a certified yapper, and if I keep at it, I'll never stop. There's so much that can be said on this topic. Everybody's experience can be different, but don't let it fool you. You're not alone. Alright, thank you for watching. If you did enjoy it, then leave a like. Perhaps you can comment and share your thoughts on the matter. Maybe you can even have an overall look at my content and decide if you'd like to join me on my journey by subscriing. I do hope to see you in my next video, but until then, please take care of yourselves, stay safe, and bye-bye.